All right. Well, we are here for the Q4 investor webinar with Quantum Expeditions. We've got the C-suite with us, Doug Hardwick, CEO, Mr. Marty Greenspan, and the newest member to the Quantum family, Nick Kresz. And we're going to get into a little bit about Nick's bio, his background, and why he joined the team and why we are blessed to have him joining us on this expedition as we continue mining Bitcoin. We've got a lot to cover today. We've got the state of the market, as you can see. Mr. Marty Greenspan will cover that. CEO Doug Hardwick covering some off-grid work that's happening right now in the Permian Basin of West Texas, current market valuation, the roadmap, and what that profit projection looks like, and then where we're at with the WeFunder. We have big news, and your opportunity is closing, and we will get in on that and why it's closing so fast on the WeFunder update. Some Q&A. If you got questions, you can always fire them in. We'd love to answer them, and that's what we're all about. And then we'll kind of wrap things up. So that's kind of an overview of where we're going to be going through the agenda here today. We'll go with the webinar outline. You can see, again, the market overview and where we're positioning as a business, the innovation and progress, profitability, growth opportunities, and what are those next steps for 2025. There's a lot to get to in the state of the market already, Mr. Marty Greenspan. I think I am going to go on record in saying that we are right now witnessing hyper Bitcoinization as we speak. I think historians will look back at this point in time right here that we are in full on hyper Bitcoinization mode with other Bitcoin miners like Mara, with MicroStrategy, all these things unfolding. Kick us off on this webinar, where we are with the state of the market from your view.
Thanks a lot, Matt. Appreciate the intro. And thanks everybody for coming. And please don't hold questions until the end. We might hold answering them until the end, but feel free to type them in as you think of stuff. More questions, the better. Yeah, so I have been very vocal lately on Twitter and even in the Quantum Economics newsletter. And wherever I can, really, within the journalists and media and stuff like that, being on record as saying that we are entering a golden age. And I've been watching Bloomberg again. Like, I haven't watched it in a while. Like, just keeping my head down through the bear market and building stuff, as you know. But lately I've been watching because I think it's very interesting with Trump's election. And first of all, it's a pleasure to have, a U.S. president finally who is a full-throated Bitcoin bull. I've always said about Bitcoin that, one day the politicians will realize that they're going to have to join their constituents and vie for the Bitcoin vote. And that actually has happened. I've been saying that nation-state adoption is the fourth cataclysm of Bitcoin. And I just never imagined that, like the United States of America would be leading the charge on that. As a side note, I think it's very interesting what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have planned for the U.S. government. As a student of Milton Friedman, staunch libertarian, who always says that less government means more freedom and more prosperity. I am so very excited to be seeing, the chainsaw coming in and hacking up pieces of the U.S. government and making that much smaller, because obviously that is just a huge waste of resources. And I believe that given today's technology that we have with blockchain and with AI, and now America, instead of having a government that was trying to control those technologies and curtail them, we're going to have a government that's in the position of power to enable them and to embrace them. And along with Trump and Javier Milei in Argentina, and all of you know, I'm sure, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, within a few years, it's going to be impossible for any politician to argue with the results. And if they don't come on the same platform and say, okay, we're going to reduce the government size by half, and by Bitcoin, they're going to have a very tough time getting reelected. And therefore, what I'm missing from all these Bloomberg analysts, I have not seen a single one yet, but I did get my confirmation bias finally this week Mark Andreessen said to Joe Rogan, and if you know who Mark Andreessen is, he's a very famous startup investor,
Yeah.
CEO of A16Z. And he did use the words that I had used in my newsletter, that we are entering a golden age. And in my humble opinion, this can literally last for centuries. So this is the time to be in it to win it. This is the time to be exposed to the markets. Obviously not leverage. Leverage is a killer. So punting on a meme coin, you win some, you lose some. It's a great casino. But of course, you have the four of us in front of you and another 8 members behind the scenes of Quantum Expeditions. We would like to make a case for you today of why this is one of the best and most solid and investments that you can make with a very high potential for profits down the road. So yeah, with that, I'll be very happy to look at the chart. Not sure how much is necessary today. I think, we're just looking at Bitcoin trying to hit that $100,000 mark. We did get news within the last few hours that the Biden administration has moved some Silk Road coins to Coinbase, about $2 billion worth. So that could be Biden's final, FU to the rest of us. If he does decide to market sell all of those, it could bring us to 88 or even 86. But if you see this blue line over here, that is the 200-day.
We're not able to get the chart there, Mr. Greenspan.
Are you not seeing my chart?
No, we see your state of the market slide, which is a very nice slide, by the way. I love the Trump, the Doge, and the drill baby drill, but we don't have the chart analysis page.
Thank you to Mochi for the chart for the.
No, she did a great job.
Can you see my my?
There we go. Yeah, now you got it up. Perfect. Yeah.
So 74K over here. That is the previous all-time high. That would represent the strong support. If we do look, we've gone up tremendously, 40% in just 2.5 weeks. That's a very strong move upward. I don't know if we have the momentum to carry us over the 100K mark. It's a very strong barrier. If we do, wonderful. That's great. This move upwards has increased our profitability on mining handsomely. But we're not even there yet. This is not even the best part. I mean, this is not what we're super excited about to be presenting today. Is a lot more of what's been going on behind the scenes at Quantum. But if we do have a 74 support and the blue line comes up to 74, I think that could be very healthy. When markets move up too fast and don't have the time to build in those support levels, that could be an issue because then it could go down just as fast. And if you ask me, just like on the side, what else have I been looking at? I think, Dogecoin at 42 cents is silly. But Doge is literally going to be occupying the Pentagon and every other government building you can think of, except for the White House. The Doge community is firmly in charge of the U.S. government now, at least for the next 18 months. So Dogecoin at less than $1 is just weird to me. But that's not what this is about today. So let's move on to the man who needs no introduction. You all know him as Doug. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up these slides again for you, sir.
Yeah, CEO Doug Hardwick. He's got a strong background in oil and gas, and we are blessed to have him on the team. You're part of the presentation, sir.
I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate everybody joining us today, learn about what's going on, and just give you a little idea how we got to where we are today. When we were looking for, when to pull the trigger to start mining over a year ago, one of the guys that I met through the oil and gas industry came to me and said that he knew a miner that was moving into 10 and 20 megawatt locations, and his first site was only 700 kilowatts or 0.7 megawatts. and that they were just using it for storage at the time. And what they offered to us was an opportunity to move in, and all we had to do is clean it out and plug in our miners, and we'd be up and running. And so that was an opportunity that we felt we couldn't pass up, because that saved us about 150, $150,000. So that all we had to do is just order the miners, plug them in, and we were mining. And it's only been a 3% hotel fee. So that's where we've been now for the last, since almost a year ago. It was a year ago this month, just a week before Christmas.
Coming up on the 1 year anniversary now.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So we're very, very fortunate to be where we're at. That's a temporary location because we knew we've always wanted to be off grid. It also allowed us the opportunity to do what I like to do best and err on the side of caution, and make sure that our plans are well laid out before we, really get in. Because when you're out there and you're buying the containers, you're setting up the infrastructure and all the things that's involved, electricians and everything. That's a lot of money if it's just a temporary location. And so, having that was really big. So now what's our next step? Our next step is to be mining what they call off grid. The location we're at right now is on grid. So moving off grid is using natural gas from oil and gas wells. And we were able to find an oil and gas company that picked up a bunch of wells, or a bunch of leases that had a lot of wells. And as they're putting these wells online, now that, and I don't know if y'all saw the picture we had on X with the equipment actually out there testing gas for us. And now we've got some results coming in, and it's good. And we've got more than enough gas to get a whole megawatt up in mining. So what is the benefit of natural gas mining? Well, number one is gas utilization, obviously. That's the big one. So instead of allowing the flared gas to be released into the atmosphere, it's redirected to power Bitcoin mining. And by using this gas to generate electricity for mining, it serves a dual purpose. And one is reducing waste and creating value from what would normally be environmentally harmful practice. The second thing is carbon offset. So when flared gas is used for Bitcoin mining, it can be considered a form of a carbon offset. You have to excuse me, I've kind of been under the weather now for a little over a week. The third thing is economic incentives. By providing economic incentives to the oil and gas producers, allows them to capture and utilize that flared gas from Bitcoin mining. It encourages a more environmental practices. And this can lead to a reduction in gas flaring and its associated environmental impact. And then fourth thing is the remote locations. Because Bitcoin mining facilities can be set up in remote locations where it can be a challenge to establish traditional energy infrastructure, what we call on-grid. This is especially beneficial in regions that's abundant with natural gas but don't have the power lines to connect to. And so that's what we have there in far west Texas in what they call the Permian Basin. The takeaway capacity, as we call it, the pipelines to take the gas to market, is very constrained. And so the smaller operators just can't get gas into the pipeline. So their only options has been flaring or shutting wells in. So this is a huge benefit to them. So as far as the hard assets, what we've been able to do is procure a year ago last month is 144 S19 K Pros. And so we had those for a few months, and then we added in 2 different tranches, a total of 44 S21s, 195s. And so now we have our total fleet of miners is 188 miners. Now, moving off grid, this is where we talk about our PE ratio, right? So with all 188 miners mining, minus the electricity, the income off of that is about $500 a day. And that's, we're not doing that right now. We do have some miners that are off being repaired. We had some that, mechanical things they break down. But we have some getting repaired right now. So when you consider, excuse me, that along with the 5 megawatt location that we have, which is our power purchase agreement, excuse me, might have to slow down a little bit.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, take your time, man. Take your time.
Take your time, right?
What I understood is that the wells that we're going to, right? So they're actually mining crude oil, right?
Well,
and natural gas is like a byproduct or something that they don't actually want.
Right. It's a waste. It's just they're just flaring it off because they could care less about the gas. It's such our company, the oil and gas mineral company I work with, we have some property there in West Texas in the Permian Basin, and it's maybe 5% of our income is natural gas. It's with a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company, so they can afford to sell their gas. But back in April of this year, we had to pay the company to take our gas, negative 41 cents an MCF. So, when you're a smaller company, you can't afford to do that. But when you're a multi-billion-dollar company, you can afford to buy these $250,000 compressors to push that gas into the high pressure pipelines. And so for the little guys, they're not going to spend all that money and do all that work for 5% more income. It's just not worth it. It'll cost them more money than that. And so that's why the little guys, they get the permits and approvals from the state to just flare the gas. So yeah, it is a waste. But that's where we come in. We got really fortunate with the operator that we met because his brother started buying Bitcoin a while back, and he tried orange pilling this West Texas guy that we're working with now, but he had opened a wallet but never bought. He told me he opened a wallet, never bought anything. And so we're going to, teach him the ropes. We're going to teach him. We'll put a couple of miners in our container for him. We'll set him up a pool. We'll show him how to, stack some sats. We're going to teach him how to be safe by putting it off into cold storage. And we're going to teach him how to hodl. And, watch that price rocket up to $1 million a coin. He'll be glad he did. I'll promise you. But anyway.
On wood.
Yeah.
I mean, we're helping them out. You talk about the economic incentives, right? And this is a point I covered earlier. This leads not only to less gas flaring, but it also helps the oil and gas companies. These small companies have an extra income stream selling gas and stacking sats, right? So if they're able to see both of those bringing value to them, why wouldn't they? It's just that, as you know, there's a lot of West Texas oil men that don't see mining as a real business yet. We're getting there.
Can you just briefly elaborate on the environmental impact of what we're about to do?
So certainly, as far as the environmental impact, so natural gas, when it comes up out of the ground naturally, the biggest thing is methane, right? And so depending on the well, and that's why you have to test wells to see what kind of content is in that gas, because every well has its own personality. So the gas stream that's coming out of those wells, they all have different contents, from ethane, pentane, SOB, SOP, butane, propane, methane, sometimes a lot of carbon, sometimes nitrogen. And so some of that stuff is not doable. And so when they're the worst case scenario is if the oil company is just venting, which is just throwing that gas up into the atmosphere. That you don't want. The next stage in lowering emissions is flaring. But when we're taking that gas, instead of flaring the gas, is redirecting it through a treater, and you don't know how to treat the gas until you run that report and see what all's in the gas. Then we treat the gas to make sure that we get the right kind of gas for the genset, because that's really one of the weakest links in our chain of energy is that genset. So if we can take that gas and make it a good gas before it goes into the generator or genset that turns that natural gas into electricity, and then once it gets to that genset and that electricity goes over to our container, it keeps our uptime. And Nick and I have had quite a conversation before about fault tolerance, making sure that maybe we have 2 or 3 generators. And that way, if one fails, which they'll do, they're mechanical pieces, right? Just like anything else mechanical, like your car, it can break down. And so we've got a lot of forethought into what we're going to do next and how we grow and expand those locations. And so just like we have our current location, half a dozen wells for sure. He's got about 30 more wells to be put online. And then another location was it about 23,000 acres, a couple of hundred wells out there that's already drilled. So there's a lot of upside potential for us. And one of the things that we, are gearing towards our stage 1 is, getting it up and running off grid, and then expanding that to an exahash, which is about 18 megawatts. And that'll take about 6,000 MCF of gas. And, that's where you want to be with us now before we get there, because the valuation on our company then, I think, will go through the roof compared to where we're at today.
Yeah. There's so much. It really is an exact science when we're testing these wells. And I've learned so much from you, Doug, just our conversations. And you mentioned your conversations with Nick Kresz. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to introduce the newest team member, our CTO, Nick Kresz, joining Quantum Expeditions. And welcome to the team and welcome to the family. Nick, first and foremost, my question, I want to just kind of start off, and we haven't even rehearsed it, so I know it's kind of coming at you cold a little bit, but lots of opportunities, a little bit of your background, why you chose to work here with us at Quantum Expeditions, and then a little bit of your background so folks kind of know who you are.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited about the opportunity here with Quantum and the future. To kind of echo what Madi said earlier, I do believe we're also entering, this golden age, not just with Bitcoin, but, all things, economically with the new administration that's coming in, and some of the things he's promised are very exciting, especially around crypto, So as far as my background goes, I've been doing consulting and technology and building data centers and applications and hosting and migrations and networking and anything from computers to large data centers supported and built and helped design and architect for a little over 2 decades now. So getting into this space with some additional cutting edge, bleeding edge tech is very exciting. It does, it is new, but it does take, some planning. So I'm, grateful that I'm able to get in at the ground floor here and help design, our strategies, kind of like what Doug was alluding to, around, miners and deployment and uptime and redundancy and things like that. So I think we'll be able to design a good product and a good service and be very successful.
Well, I think if I understand correctly, before you get into your part of the presentation, the need that I think that we as a company, or that Quantum has, is that you expand to these off-grid sites, and we're looking at expanding the network. We're having more miners. So there is a need for, I think, somebody with your skill set and your expertise to really come on board and kind of be able to handle, like you said, that network, that size and that scale. So you mentioned you have experience with that in your past, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and
Yeah.
there are so many variables that you have to consider and accommodate for, right?
Yeah.
You could have all the power in the world, but if your internet provider goes down, it doesn't matter how many miners you have online, right? Because they can't contact the pools and receive shares. So yeah, I mean, there's a level of complexity, because in traditional technology and IT, you can get a cable or a fiber connection, for business, and it's very reliable. It's 4, 5, 6 nines of reliability, and all the speed and bandwidth you can need. When we're talking about these remote locations, for example, we're going to have to consider primary and secondary failover strategies for uptime, multiple different providers in case an entire provider is having issues. So there's any number of things that we have to accommodate for to maximize uptime as part of our strategy.
Nope, sorry, but yeah, there's a lot there. Let's get into your part of the presentation on the roadmap of like Bitcoin mining on this gas site substation and AI hosting, because a lot of people are talking about AI and the pivot to HPC and AI. So I'm excited to hear your presentation on all of this.
Yeah, for sure. Just really quick on this slide, I'll kind of go through. So as Doug had mentioned earlier, we're currently on grid. We had a hosting provider that had some additional space, and that required us very little effort to get in there and get our machines up and hashing. So we've been hashing for almost a year now with that provider, but it is a temporary location. So as soon as gas site 1 is built out, we're going to be migrating over there, and I'll get into some details about some of the numbers and locations and different inputs that we have for that. But as far as the substation, also expanding on what Doug and Madi had said, if we get into a situation where we have more energy and more gas than we need, for a site, and it may be something where it's not enough to use it with additional miners, but it may be enough to where if it fluctuates enough in that upper range, we can sell that excess energy back to the grid. So our partner, that we're working with for the gen sets, they have experience building out electrical substations. So that could be a combination of power lines or a substation, power lines to an existing substation, or our own entire substation that we would build out. But it would allow us to kind of diversify what we're doing, assuming we're going to have excess energy, and sell into the Texas grid energy market, which goes up and down. It's supply and demand, so that could be potentially lucrative. And again, instead of just having excess energy or excess gas, we'd be able to utilize that and sell it back to Texas energy providers. And then as far as the AI hosting, Doug also briefly mentioned this, but we have a power purchase agreement, and it starts out at 5 megawatts, but I think it goes up several orders of magnitude from there once we've built out the first site. But this is on grid, power purchase agreement for electrical use at a set rate. So we are looking into opportunities to sell infrastructure and energy essentially back to companies that are interested in hosting their own high power compute or AI models. I've said this before, Amazon and Azure are, light years ahead as far as being able to deploy and work with AI and machine learning and things like that. But it's very costly, right? And you always have the worry of, storing my data with another third party. Are they, going to be using that or spying on it or taking it, even though, it should be proprietary and protected? There are still, many companies that want to build and utilize their own infrastructure for security and privacy and, protection of IP purposes. So that market is pretty hot right now. And AI companies are looking for companies to partner with for energy deals, essentially. So that could be a potentially lucrative investment as well for AI and high power compute. As far as the specific, so currently the looking at are in the West Permian and ready. 2 more are being tested. We've got more than enough gas needed for 1 megawatt on the first site. So you need about 250 MCF for 1 megawatt. We're looking at about 350 right now. So that is absolutely over the amount that we need, but it's good because that's how we want to plan out our site deployments anyways. And Doug alluded to this, but gas, each well is unique, and the flow goes up and down, and over time it may even gradually decline naturally. So when you plan these things out, you don't want to hit 250 and say, yep, we're good, we've got 250, we can do a megawatt, because you'll get in trouble if you plan that way. So the future wells, that same property in the West Permian Basin has 24 plus additional wells that can be tested and utilized. And then in the East Permian Basin, we have, he alluded to the 23,000 acres. We've got 230 plus wells there, existing wells, and many that can be mined as well. And then, so some of the initial numbers for just the first site, 1 megawatt, if we're talking about 250 miners, would be a mix of S21s and S19K Pros. At current market price for Bitcoin, that would run us about 0.64 BTC a month per megawatt, which winds up being about $60,000 a month per megawatt. So after all the wells are built out, we're looking at, assuming, again, making some assumptions that all of these wells have the same, conservatively same amount of gas coming out of them. Some may have a lot more, some may have less. In the future, when we build out all of the existing wells that we are working with our current operator, that would be around $35 million a year. One of the exciting things that happened at the what was that conference called? The
North American Blockchain Summit?
Yeah, North American Blockchain Summit. Yeah, we had a really great time there. Very exciting. It was very, encouraging to see so much investment and professionalism in crypto. There were, many multi-million and several billion-dollar companies there, putting on displays, showcasing new technology, making connections. Politicians, senators, people that were in Trump's administration. So it was great to hear people talking about the future of crypto. But one of the exciting things specific to quantum, there were a lot of people that were aware of stranded gas in West Texas and other parts of Texas. So we had several conversations with people that put us in touch with other people that had, stranded gas. And we even had people that came up to us and wanted to seek out those opportunities, to be able to present them back to us. So it's very encouraging, even beyond what we've got here, what we're talking about. There is a lot of stranded gas. So the opportunity for expansion is just, sky's the limit. I should say the moon is the limit.
And this is also these projections are assuming $100,000 Bitcoin. So if we see $200,000 Bitcoin within the year, does that mean then double the revenue? So that's, what does that put us at, like 70 million a year?
Exactly. Exactly. And that doesn't even include, everything we're going to hodl, right? So as we mine the Bitcoin, it's not going to cost that much, obviously, to maintain and build out and all these things. So
just a quick question for you guys here, and I think this could be a really right in Doug or Nick's wheelhouse here. We're looking at 230 plus wells, and we're already testing on some. For folks who are joining us or folks who might be watching this recording at a later date, how long does that process take? Because we've seen that photo of the machine out there testing the well. How long does it take in real time to test one well and get the results back?
So it depends. Plus, there's more than one company that tests wells. So, if we're fortunate enough that we need to test, a couple dozen wells real quick, we can, hire out 2 or 3 companies. So
okay, so it's not like it takes like a month to get we got to test it and get the result. It's not a long drawn out process.
A day or two
All right.
to test
That's
a well.
kind of what I wanted to get. So especially from an investor standpoint, like if I'm an investor, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, how long is this going to take to test wells? Is this a long process or is it a relatively short process? It's kind of what I want. Yeah. And I think we've got some questions here already from folks coming in. So if you are good for it, gentlemen, we can fire some of these off. I think Mr. Greenspan, someone wants to know if you will play a game of chess with them later. So we'll move on from that one.
Already answered that. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to play some chess later with Mr. Greenspan offline. Linda wants to know, what are you paying for power online and offline? Linda Joseph with a question.
So yeah, I want to just say, Linda, for you, we are answering this question in this webinar live for the first time. We discussed it long and hard. So our current location, we're paying 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which even in the darkest of times after the halving, kept us mining profitably. Sometimes just barely. Now that the Bitcoin price has shot up to the moon very handsomely. Our off-grid power, we estimate conservatively to be below 3 cents per kilowatt hour, which basically means that right now, even when we're profitably, there's the feeling like we're working for the electric company, right? They're making more money off of us than we are. That's gonna completely flip on its head once we move off grid. It will come with some downtime, and we're prepared for that. It's completely fine because unlike the on grid, you don't pay consistent rates, depending on what your overall load is. You only pay for what you use, and therefore, that basically means that the biggest expenditure that we have every month, the electric bill, is going to be slashed by more than half. We'll see. We hope to release more accurate figures once we're doing it and once we're up and running. But that's our conservative estimate at this moment in time.
All right. Let's see. Good thing we're better at mining Bitcoin than presenting online. Yes, that's why we stay safe, stack sats, and hodl. And I apologize for my computer issues at the beginning there. I had a little bit of a problem with Xfinity. Brian wants to know, are there any plans for dividends? Now, this is something that comes on the heels of just last week. I believe it was Bit Digital putting out, or no, I'm sorry, but it was Iron putting out that they were looking at the possibility of paying dividends as well when it comes to Bitcoin. So to Brian's question, are there any plans for dividends in the future?
Yes, absolutely. No change in our answer here. Basically, the dividends is our way of not only paying out investors, is also our plans for paying out ourselves. As you know, a large portion of our staff, actually all of our staff, is incentivized through equity. And that means that we get paid when when you get paid. So yes, we definitely want to have dividends as soon as possible. We do want to have a few sites up and running before we start cutting that out, so that we can make sure that it's that we're not hurting ourselves as far as growth. But again, it's going to depend on the activity that we see through the WeFunder. It's going to depend on the activity that we how fast we're able to get some of these things up and running, how fast we're able to get a few sites running concurrently. But yes, that is very much on our mind at all times.
One from the anonymous attendee. I love the anonymous attendee. Thank you for being here, regardless where you are around the world and across the web. Have investors claimed all the extra things for their investment tiers, or is it ongoing? They've been out of the loop trying to see when and where we are on the roadmap. Also, they want to know, are we mining efficient enough to potentially still get payouts in Bitcoin? So I think that kind of question has been answered a little bit there, but have investors claimed all the extra things for their investments? And is that ongoing? Where are we at with that?
I think that you're referring to the swag, for example,
Yes.
what Matt Case is wearing over there. And Doug and Nick have the hat. So the hat's available for a $500 cumulative investment. Then at $1,000 is a t-shirt. And then the hoodie is at $10,000, $50,000 with a bathrobe. And at $100,000, should we get any of those, Oz Sultan is preparing a briefcase filled with goodies that are going to be Bitcoin related.
Something that came across my radar really quick. I think we are approaching a milestone on the WeFunder, which would then trigger another incentive. And time is running out on this WeFunder as we close in on $500,000 raised. I believe the deadline is April 30th on this thing. Mr. Greenspan, talk to us about the importance of a safe of the WeFunder, that $500,000 investment mark, as we are so close to hitting it. Walk us through that.
Absolutely. Let me just finish answering the anonymous question, because we did have an issue, and I'm going to be the first one to take the fall on that. Getting the swag to the investors did take longer than expected. We had an agent in California who received the swag from China that we'd ordered. There were also issues in China, of course. But once it had reached the United States, that agent was at several conferences, and he had some medical issues, some personal issues, unfortunately. We have gotten the swag out to most US investors, and the international ones have still not shipped for investors. The international one should be shipped soon. We are shifting that out to alternate routes, and do apologize for any inconvenience and delay in that. You will get everything that's coming to you. If you have not received any swag so far, you can reach me personally to verify that you're on the list and getting it. I'm happy to assist with that. If you did receive swag, please take a picture of yourself, send it to us, or video of you wearing it. We would so very much love to see that, and tag us on social media, because those type of things can really help spread the word about Quantum Expeditions and garner more funds and faster growth through the WeFunder. And then, of course, the Bitcoin ordinals, for every 2,500, you get an ordinal. If you have not gotten your ordinals yet, I'm happy to assist with that as well. So just message me directly, and I will assist you personally with those things, Mr. Anonymous.
And Yemi had a question about that as well, about their Quantum Badger. How do I go about getting help for that? So again, Mr. Greenspan making himself available right there. Now, time is of the essence, right? The opportunity to get in at this great valuation is closing. I mentioned it earlier, April 30th. I really want folks to take advantage of this limited opportunity right now while it presents itself, to get in right now in this early round with the WeFunder, as we are just close to $500,000 raised. I feel like we could hit it here any minute. Somebody could come through and fully fund this round, and then boom, that's it. It's closed.
It might happen also, by the way. We have had that discussion with several investors. So to clear the air also, you all have seen deadlines before for the WeFunder. They did get pushed a few times, and it makes sense given where we're at. However, at this point in time, we really need to, and we didn't have a slide for this, unfortunately. I was thinking as like an after effect and prep. Like we should have had a slide for this. There's a roadmap for finances as well, which would be under my jurisdiction. Right now, we're in the WeFunder stage. We had 2 seed rounds, and I see several of our seed investors here. That really warms my heart to see you guys still on top of what's going on here. And we're now in the initial crowd fund. After this, we want to go into a Reg D, and yeah, we do have several investors already who are quite interested, family offices, institutional investors. As Nick and Doug mentioned at the NAB Summit, there was a whole lot of interest in us, and we fully intend to be raising in larger amounts very soon. So in order for that to happen, we do need to close the WeFunder. Unfortunately, we cannot have 2 separate public raises at the same time because that gets us in trouble as far as something called layering, which we definitely don't want to deal with. It's a sticky wicket. Apparently possible, but no lawyer worth their weight in salt really wants to touch it. Believe me, I looked into it.
Hey, Marty.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, one of the things I told you this earlier, and I didn't think about saying it when we were talking about this, but you know, at the conference and another large investor that I've spoke with, they were actually impressed that we have a WeFunder crowd fund. When they found out we were crowdfunding, they love the fact that we've got, you know, over 500-600 people that have invested in our company. And so that speaks volumes. The other thing is the amount of work it takes to put a WeFunder crowd fund together is big. And then to have our financial review done and submitted and filed with the SEC, well, you know, that just shows that, you know, there's no hidden boogers in the carpet somewhere. We're as clean as a whistle. You know, we're full
I think that's
disclosure here.
a financial term they use over there at Mara as well. No financial boogers, Doug.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anyway, wait, and so that's something that, you know, you as an investor ought to be proud of, is we have a really stellar team. You're just seeing the face of the team here. There's a lot more behind the scenes, you know, from our accounting to our CPAs to our legal staff and everybody that keeps this whole ship righted and you know, going down that right path. And I'm really proud of where we've been and where we're going, because I think our future is very bright.
Hey, Doug, since I got you and your voice is sounding really good, can you answer another question for us really quick? Because Rupert came in a little bit late to the conversation, and I know that you kind of addressed it, but maybe you can address it for Rupert. He wanted to know, could you share the roadmap for bringing online these new wells, and how many, and what is the timeline for that, please, and for that 35 million?
Yeah, so the operator we're working with, he's had 4 wells online for several months. The location there in West Texas, Permian Basin in the Western Shelf of the Permian is it's a very mature field where we're at, the area. And matter of fact, XTO's got a bunch of wells right next to us. Now these are shallow verticals. They're not the deep horizontal shale wells that you hear a lot about in the Permian. But still, so what they did is they put the wells online because they were shut in for about 3 years because the guy that owned it before had passed away. And then this guy bought it, and then he's putting the wells online. You don't want to measure gas day one, the wells go online. You want to get some production and get some real steady flow before you start testing to see what they really settle in at. So there's a little over 30 wells on the western side. And what was the other part of the question?
Roadmap for bringing on the new wells. And this is kind of a question that the real Bitbull had as well. So again, I think a lot of the investors kind of want to know the timeline for activating these miners on the gas sites. What's the timeline? Are we looking like maybe Q1, Q2? And again, it's probably hard to know down because you got to test these wells, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of it right now. We've already started, right? And so you don't just turn everything on at once. And plus, the more money we raise, the faster that we raise money, the faster we can expand. But that's why we're also in talks with, the multi-million, $10 million investors. And they all really love our story. They love what we're doing and what we're all about. The environmental aspect of our company and trying to be as environmentally friendly as possible. Those are all key things. And it's a good storyline, but it's also a good thing to have. And it's a good mantra to have, as a company.
Linda has a follow-up question wanting to know, thank you for the cost answer. Can you elaborate a bit on what you mean by, quote, AI hosting? Maybe Nick can take that one.
Yeah, so for private companies out there, AI is a huge market right now, as everybody probably is aware of. And it is still a competitive market that you can jump into now, because the large language models like ChatGPT or Claude or Bard from Google, all of these LLMs are really good at a lot of things. So they're kind of like a wide and deep knowledge base, knowledge set, and that's what they're trained on. But the emerging market is companies that are building AIs that are specific to a certain purpose, right? So they call those, a lot of those are small language models. So they're trained on very specific information, and they're better at that, at that information than any of the large language models would be. So the point of that, just talking about that part, is that there is still a lot of opportunity to get into that market for companies that want to have their own models and have their own offerings, with AI. One of the problems those companies are running into is that they don't have the space and the energy needed, right? It's difficult for them to find space and energy, to host these large language models, right? So since we have a power purchase agreement available, what we could do is turn around and sell that energy through the power purchase agreement to a company that is looking to build and host their own AI model. And essentially that would be a separate income source, for Quantum, on grid. So that's the high level about that opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic. And maybe you could just explain why it's important that you can only do that really with on grid versus off grid, and those needs and demands that warrant the HP or HPC AI play for on grid versus off grid.
Yeah, so with AI models, you spend a lot of time training, and if that gets interrupted, you basically have to start over. So you're wasting time and you're wasting money and energy. So that's why the consistent on-grid power is necessary. A lot of times, also, it's a higher demand entry point for those high power compute and AI model machines. So you have to have higher energy demands to start with that may not be available from like a 1 megawatt site. So there would be too many variables to kind of host many different sites with the same model. You'd have to coordinate networks and things like that. So it just becomes more cost effective and efficient to build those out on grid for AI hosting.
Excellent. Thank you. Probably a question for you, Mr. Greenspan, we'll throw your way. Comes courtesy from Michael Kelly. Wider question. He wants to know, could you please elaborate on the investment to equity ratio? What does that look like?
That is an excellent question. I wasn't prepared for. So it depends on the so the way that the investment contract is structured is called a SAFE, or simple agreement for future equity. And the way that it works is that you're getting in now. It's actually started by Y Combinator for startups that are too early to have a official valuation. And since we're a small startup, we don't have an official valuation yet. So basically, once we do our next valued raise that has an official valuation, then you will get in at the same valuation as those investors, those official investors who have done the valuation. So you'll get in that same valuation, except that you have a maximum. So you have something called a valuation cap. The valuation cap right now is $33 million. That's the maximum that you're going to pay. So if the next investors actually come in at 66 million, well, that means that you've actually doubled your money overnight.
Yeah, I was going to say you just
You're
doubled
buying something for 33 million that somebody else has paid 66 million for. And then more broadly, this valuation was set more than a year ago already when we opened up the WeFunder to the general public in the first instance. This was before we'd laid all the groundwork for the gas site, and even before we had started mining at the hosted site. Therefore, our valuation, of course, as Doug mentioned, according to our current revenues and total assets, what was the figure that you mentioned, Doug? It was something more like 55?
50, yeah, 55 million. Yeah.
Yeah, we're currently 33 million, but just pick our whole process up and place it off grid, and our valuation jumps from 33 to 55 and a half.
All right. So
I'm just so excited about this off-grid opportunity, man. I'm like trying to contain myself.
And then to finish my thought about the financial roadmap, and then also answer Neville's question, so 2 in 1. So the WeFunder will be open either until April 30th or until we reach our hard cap, which is the maximum amount that the SEC will allow us to raise, which is $1.235 million, or $1.2 million for short. So the 500K that we're about to hit is actually an internal milestone for a stretch goal. So the stretch goal is that once we reach 500K, hopefully tonight, with your guys' help, we will be producing a board game, which we've already noodled around the prototype for. We've got some professional board game developers with us hand in hand to help us push this out, and that'll be available for cost price for all of our 600 and some investors. So that's once we reach the 500K stretch goal. $1 million stretch goal, we will be having a desert rave with music and special goodies. So that's gonna possibly pies. We're not sure yet. We haven't had any confirmation, but pies could be involved. And that'll be at $1 million raised. The WeFunder will close either April 30th or once we've hit the hard cap of 1.235 million. After that, we'll be going to a Reg D immediately. And the Reg D could last anywhere from 6 to 8 months. After that, most likely, and given it depends on the market conditions, of course, most likely we will be looking at another crowd fund that will have ample opportunity for retail investors, albeit will most likely be at a much higher valuation than the one that you're getting today. After that, Series A comes to mind, and then we talk about IPO status. And total time to IPO, we estimate about 4 to 5 years from now.
Fantastic. That's a lot right there to unpack.
And wait, there's more. Yeah, from a $33 million valuation, if we IPO at $1 billion, that represents 30x on your money.
Carry the 2. Yeah. That math does seem to check out. Carry the 1. That's 2. Bring down the 0. Yeah. Some sat math right there for you. Fantastic. I think we've got maybe, and I'm going to go through and make sure we answered all these questions. How to grow to a unicorn in 4 to 5 years. There you go. I think we've gone through most of the questions that folks have sent in here. I want to make sure we go back to the top.
I'm just happy that Neville has finally met Neville on the chat there. We have 2 Nevilles. It's great.
Neville, meet Neville. Hello,
yeah,
Neville.
I believe both of them have been quite early in the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the real Bitbull also. Realistic timeline to gas. Doug, I'm going to step out of the way and let you answer that one.
What was the question?
Realistic timeline for our first deployed gas site.
It's very soon. Our goal is to be mining before the end of the year. It could roll into January, but our goal is actually this month.
Knock on wood. Hope you're right, man.
Yeah.
Been working on this quite hard.
We got the gas.
We've got everything we need. We have all the pieces of the puzzle. We have the right team members. We have the right partners. We have the right advisors. Everybody within a short radius, physical location. We're zeroing in on it. I can feel it. I'm very excited. My palms are itching already.
I've got a question, if I can, because I'm excited about the offsite, and I know what this means. Let me just ask you, as far as miners, though, it's very possible that some S19s can still be rather profitable if they're done the right way. Do S19s lend themselves to this kind of configuration and setup that we're looking at doing here in the Permian Basin?
Absolutely. And Nick and I have gone through the numbers more than once, I do believe. And there's some real opportunities out there, especially when you've got these multi-billion-dollar companies that are upgrading their fleet,
right,
to the latest, most recent technology. And a lot of them are, taking these S19 J Pros and K Pros out of service.
Yeah, the K Pros,
yeah. So, if you can get those, which I've seen or been offered $1 a terahash, now you can get pretty daggum cheap, or $3 a terahash, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as we lower the price of the energy, the cost of the energy, and as the price of Bitcoin goes up, those older models become much more viable for us specifically. So we, and that's not everybody can say that. Right now, you can still buy K Pros from Bitmain for brand new for pretty cheap, but they have a lot of stock because it's hard to be profitable on grid with those miners. So we are in a unique situation to where we can take advantage of not having to invest 5, 10, 15 grand in the latest version of the miner, and make the current models or 1, 2, 3 generation old models very profitable and very low capital expenditure to get into that market.
Yeah, that CapEx expenditure is the big one. I think a lot of folks, when you look at it from an investment standpoint, what do you have to put out? And if you can save a lot right there I look at it like buying a pre-owned vehicle. Like, oh, I can take the depreciation on the new Lambo, or I can buy a pre-owned Lambo. You know what I mean? So I will take the pre-owned and still get the CPO, right? The certified pre-owned version. And so if you've got an S19 and you can put them in a configuration like that still makes them highly profitable, then let's go. It's got me excited.
In that case, that capital expenditure is what drove us to be at the location we are currently mining at. By not having to pay a penny to build out a site. I mean, we got very, very fortunate. And people realize that. And I've been told, and I say that from people telling me, you got lucky. And and you can ask, our team here, uh, we don't believe in luck. Luck is made sometimes. Some people call it fate. But we as a team, we kind of lean towards divine intervention, because things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. We'll probably be able to write a book about how doors were shut that we thought, here's the door we need to go through. And then when it shut on us, we go down the hall and we got a better opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we've had that happen to us a lot. Heck, if you look at Nick right there, he's one of those opportunities that opened up to us and is really is a real key member of helping us design and organize and maintain our current and future locations.
Yeah, because it sounds like when you go to expand and you have that big of a network as you're increasing that footprint, right, and you're scaling, you need somebody who has that technical background, who knows how to run and service a network of that magnitude. And so I feel like having Nick come on board to kind of fill that position is like, we needed that star running back, that can hit the hole.
There you go.
You know what I mean? He's that running back that boy, you can hand it off to him 25 times a game and he's gonna produce results. Did you ever play football, Nick?
We already have an O-line.
Yeah.
No football. I played some baseball though.
Okay.
I just wanted to say we've been working with Nick for quite a while behind the scenes in our first location, and sorry about that. And what I wanted to say was that, like, we didn't take the position to put him in this role lightly. And what really excited us was the fact that he has experience hiring multiple teams concurrently and running all systems go, because that's where we want to be, is running many sites and having that sort of infrastructure in place. And which is why I'm very excited. Not only was he able to make our one site hum, better than we've ever seen it, but that he has that experience in building out many sites and making sure they're all running optimally.
Yeah, there was an issue. I think Nick came in and, like, within a couple of keystrokes, Nick, you did some high-tech wizardry. Share for folks who might not know what you did in the background initially when you first came on, because there was a problem and then Nick solved it. So tell me about that.
Well, I appreciate all of the nice comments. That was almost a year ago, wasn't it? Or was that earlier this year? I can't remember, but I think it had something to do with the VLANs on the network and failover between the ISPs, and we were having an issue with our cable provider at the current location. And I was on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean at the time, so I was
dedicated, man. You're dedicated.
Yeah, I was able to set down my pina colada and log in and fix the issue, and we got up and running again.
This is why we are so fortunate to have you on the team. He puts down the pina colada. He's not caught in the rain. He's not into yoga, but he is into Bitcoin mining. If you have half a brain. Oh my gosh. Are you keeping up with me? Rupert Holmes over here. Marty Greenspan is back with us. And we're trying to have some fun on this investor call here. That's Q4 QEX investor call. Mr. Greenspan's got the family in the background. Doug is recovering from illness, and thank you for being a trooper and being on this call with us today. I know you've been under the weather, getting over the bug, and Nick, it's just so great to have you and your expertise on the team and on the call as well. I guess we can just go around and look at maybe some final thoughts and kind of close this thing up.
I think we said everything that we wanted to say.
Okay.
We do have, as you can see, 2 slots on Twitter Spaces. For those of you who are on the X app, can speak with us live twice a week. At those times, you just go to the Quantum Expeditions page, and you'll find us there. But yeah, I'm very happy to see everybody come out. We feel blessed and loved, and thank you very much for your support. And we think about you guys in every meeting. Every single board meeting that we have, it comes up. What's what's in the best interest of the investors. And we feel that we are stewards of your contributions, and make sure that this thing does reach the milestones that we've set out to. And we get to make money and improve the environment and support the Bitcoin network. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
There you go. Yeah, I will say echo all those sentiments. And so I thank everybody for joining us. I thank our investors for believing in us. And like Maddie says, we don't take it lightly, and we talk about it daily. Every meeting, our investors are on the forefront because we know if the investor's making money, the company is making money, which makes us money. And so we have our priorities in line with making the investors happy.
And yeah, and feel free to reach out to us anytime, and definitely go hit up the WeFunder now, wefunder.com/quantum expeditions, and that's where you can invest for the time being. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Until then, stay safe, stack sats, and hodl. We'll see you.